Well, hi, my name is Shruti Punnachalil. I'm a junior here at SLU. I study political science and gender studies with a minor in global and local social justice on the pre-law track. Quite a mouthful. Um, my campus involvements include Audre Lorde Scholars, mock trial, and student government here at SLU. And I'm originally from Chesterfield, Missouri, which is in St. Louis County. I have been a gender and sexuality senator. I've also served as a member on the DLC or Diversity Leadership Cabinet Committee. I was just recently appointed to be the chair of the DLC committee, which is super exciting. But this past year, I spent most of my time as a College of Arts and Sciences senator. I've had some racist professors, but honestly, I think that's an unfortunate reality in a lot of different departments because I've experienced that in many departments. I think a major theme in the gender studies department at SLU is that they will sometimes some professors will either like not include student of color voices, whether that be intentionally or unintentionally. And then on the other end, you'll have some professors kind of overutilize the students of color in their classes, almost making us be like spokespeople for topics like intersectionality, literally anything on race. A lot of times I've noticed people will either like look to me as almost the expert in the room, or oftentimes like women of color will be the only people in the class that will ever talk about an issue related to intersectionality or race. Yeah, I'm familiar as a queer person in America. I'm familiar, especially in Missouri. It's a weird, very weird, dicey situation. I think I took a lot of classes in international politics slash political economy, so I haven't really talked about like those more domestic issues recently in my classes, but I can imagine how they would come up in any kind of American political systems or like American government class. So unfortunately I haven't talked about it too much in my political science classes. I have a little bit in my gender studies classes, mostly like my intro class, not really my higher level class, which is kind of interesting. I'm taking 2 this semester, the intro and then structure of poverty, which is a required class for all majors. So that's interesting. We haven't talked about it in that class, and you're kind of making me think about that now. But yeah, no, I've just been like hearing a lot about this stuff on the internet, like updated on like every state that starts to like come out with like a new drag ban or come out with like a hormone therapy ban. Like I'm also just very familiar right now with the like drama surrounding the Missouri AG and like that whole abuse of power right now. I think is going to be judged on today, or like the judgment is going to be coming out today. Maybe I missed it, but yeah, I think I'm familiar with it more so like in my personal life than my academics at SLU. Well, my initial reaction to that, so I'm actually in a LGBTQ lit class right now. Now I think about it, that's a third gender studies class.
Yeah, it is.
So maybe I'm taking 3. I didn't realize. So yes, we have talked about it to an extent in that class, but it's more of a historical literature class. So
Okay.
we're reading a novel right now about we're reading Stonebridge Blues right now.
Oh, okay.
So we have talked about it a little bit recently, especially because that that judgment came out last week or the week before. So we have been talking about it like because we just started reading our first trans novel basically. So we have talked about it a little bit there, but I kind of already knew about it, and I was bringing resources to class. So that's a whole other thing. But the LGBTQ lit class is actually the only class at SLU with the word LGBT in it. There's a gender identity class, but it doesn't say like LGBT, like doesn't actually say the gay community, you know? So that made me realize it's kind of already something that SLU doesn't lead with. But then if this is where the political climate is shifting, I think that that's really scary, because at an institution like this with such a like deep Catholic background, I think it's doing everyone a disservice to not at least engage with topics that have or do like have some incongruency with Catholicism. Like I think we should at very least be entertaining or discussing, just for like an intellectual standpoint, you know. And I think the Jesuit tradition really values that. So at an institutional standpoint, I'm scared but also hopeful because of a place like SLU, and our Jesuit values. But also like I think it's absolutely terrifying that like these stories that are so necessary for people to read and learn from, like things that I think should be mandatory texts, are completely going to be banned is a really terrifying concept to me, because I mean I think that's just going to raise a whole generation of ignorance and hate, and I think that's the goal of these bills. I think like, okay, I don't think I have the smartest or most nuanced or like best thing to say about this, but just as I feel like a regular person, I think it's just always bad to be ignorant, and raising people to not understand the way our society operates or why certain people are treated in a certain way and not like examining that in the first place, I think is bad overall. But I think it is even worse, dangerous, and violent to like explicitly not teach these things that could save lives or could make the world a better place for everyone. I mean, like transphobia, racism, sexism, at the end of the day, all of these isms, they kill people. It's violent. And I think that it's really sad that like I think it's really sad that people are so blinded by hate that they cannot extend that love to other people out of like, even though we're all like kind of this, we are all the same, we're all just people, we all just like come from different backgrounds and have different identities, but that doesn't like mean that we shouldn't learn about each other or like undo the like systems that have oppressed people for so long. And I just like, as someone that's always been, I've kind of always been more on this like side of the political spectrum, so I've like really very little empathy for it, because like I've just never really understood what it's like to like hate just being exposed to different people, ideas, concepts. Like if anything, I think that's really exciting, so I just like really don't understand it. I think it's confusing and upsetting, and like it makes me so scared. I absolutely think they do. I think they're doing it with intention, and they're doing it in such a like pointed way, like the way that they're doing it in Missouri, for example. They're doing it in a way that is so swift and can't be undone, because they know that like there's a large group of people that really oppose these kinds of policies. So I think they know that, you know, when you pass a bill banning drag, for example, or you pass a bill like banning hormone therapy, like you are killing people, and you're okay with that because that's how much you hate trans people in this country, in this state. I think that's like another reason why I find this all so unsettling and like so unnerving, because I just like have no concept of how like other humans can have that much of a disregard for human life, you know? It's hard for me to think of what to say, because I feel like these people are like so, you know, steadfast in their beliefs that I feel almost powerless to say anything as one person. I feel like what would be really meaningful is like large numbers and groups of people like taking the streets and making a movement out of this, because like you'll see these videos of all these you'll see these videos of all these queer people, trans people, drag queens going into state legislatures and trying to plead their case, and they'll be bearing their heart and soul, and it's just like you'll still watch them get disregarded because of like who they are and the fact that they showed up in that space, that legislative space, as like a queer person expressing their queerness. So like part of me just really struggles with that question, because I feel like what has been said, and we are not being heard. So there needs to be like a greater disruption at this point to really make ripples and make change. Are these guys like sharpening pencils?
No, I think he's working on the door.
Oh, okay. I was like, that sounds like a pencil sharpener.
Yeah. Well, okay, that was it. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate you being a part of it.
Of course.